Welcome into another edition of the Orange Bowl Huddle. This is episode 1, actually. My name is Mike Cugno. I'm a sports anchor locally here at CBS Miami, and we're here to talk about a new era in college football. So let's go ahead and bring in Orange Bowl CEO Eric Poms. Eric, I'm sorry to tell you, you're not the star of the show today in this one. The new board, the new format really is, but you're here to help us walk us through all of this. But first, what an exciting time in college football. It's been an exciting first month of the season. What's really jumped out to you so far from all these teams in competition right now?
Yeah, well, you combine the expansion of the college football playoff from 4 teams to 12 teams with, the dynamic of transfer portals, impact, the NIL, and you see the opening of opportunities for not just 4 teams, but, a lot of teams are going to be in the mix going into late November. So I think we're seeing the seeds. It's going to build as the season goes along. Yeah,
the storylines are plenty right now. I mean, as we look at the teams over here on the left, we're really talking about the top 12. Any trends there that you've noticed that are intriguing you in terms of the playoff this year?
You can't help but look at the top 6 and see 5 from the Southeastern Conference. Continued dominance by that league. Of course, last year, Michigan of the Big Ten won the national championship. It's exciting to see Miami here in South Florida really have a good start to the season. And a lot of new names that we haven't seen in the college football playoff conversation because it was 4 teams. So we're going to look forward to see how it plays out.
So we're expanding from 4 teams to 12 teams now. Can you kind of take us through the format and what to expect this year? Because it's going to look very different than it has in years past.
It has. I mean, first you see a championship game on January 20th that elongates the playoff into the 3rd week in January. But for the first time in postseason, you have playoff games on campus. So here on the first round, on Friday night, there'll be the first game, December 20th, 3 games on Saturday, December 21st. 4 campuses will have an electrifying atmosphere, and then it moves into the quarters, the traditional spot around New Year's Day, into a week later, the semifinals, and then it culminates on Monday night, January 20th. So a great build-up to a champion.
Let's talk about hypotheticals, and right now, as the board stands, can you kind of walk us through who's going to be where in this new format? Particularly, I guess you got to start really with the top 4 seeds.
That's exactly right. 5 conference champions are guaranteed a spot in the 12-team playoff. So the first thing you do is try to identify where they are in this moment in time. We're very early in the season. You look over here and you'd see Texas on top of the SEC group, so they would be in a good place. Ohio State would be 2nd conference champion, identified with the Big Ten. Miami would be the number 3 conference champion, representing the ACC, and then you have Utah for the Big 12. Those are the top 4 conference champions, but we have to identify the 5th, which is down here. Boise State is outside the top 12, but right now, at this moment in time, they would represent, the 5th conference champion.
All right, so let's have a little fun, do some hypotheticals, and put some teams on the board as it stands right now. So let's start with the top 4.
Top 4. So we have Texas right now is representing the SEC in the top spot. So we're going to put them right there, the number 1 spot. We come over here. We see Ohio State is the next highest ranked conference champion. That would be down here in the number 2 spot, representing the Big Ten. Put that in there. We'll come over here. We see Miami right now. They're the highest ranked ACC team. So we'll say right now ACC champion would be number 3. And last but not least would be Utah. And they would be in the 4th spot as representing the Big 12 conference. Now we have to identify who's the 5th highest ranked conference champion. At number 25 right now is Boise State, representing the Mountain West. So we're going to keep that in mind when we get to the rest of this bracketing.
So really, I mean, we talk about the top 12, but top 11 is the safest path to get into the playoff at this moment.
True, and you also could have a unusual circumstance where there could be a 2nd conference champion that's not in the top 12, and that could push another one out. So very unlikely to happen, but something that's possible.
All right, and so obviously these top 4, they're going to get a bye, and that's a big thing, of course, in football. You never want to play that extra game. So let's try to fill out the rest of this board as it would stand right now. Georgia, the number 2 team in the country at the moment, they end up where?
5, because they're the highest ranked. The highest position an at-large team can get is number 5. In fact, Notre Dame, who's not on this list, if they were in the top 4, the highest position they could get would be at number 5. That's part of the framework that was agreed upon with the College Football Playoff Management Committee.
So in terms of seeding here, once we start to go through the process, once you're locked into a spot, do you ever change? Is there any reseeding based on rankings?
For the next 2 years, at a minimum, it is locked. So once we get to Sunday, December 8th, and we see what the selection committee shows to the rest of the country, that will be the bracket.
Right.
And if there's upsets, there won't be any reseeding. You see that with the NCAA men's and women's basketball tournament. They lock it in. Conversely, if you look at the NFL, they reseed. So that's a distinct difference here. So it'll be locked in, and we'll see the bracket play out.
How does the New Year's Six bowl schedule kind of play into this? Where are we playing these games, I guess, is the big question.
So the first round games are going to be on campus for the first time in postseason. A playoff game will be games will be staged there, and then you get to the quarterfinals and semifinal rounds. There's 6 bowl games that are now called the New Year's Six. It will no longer be that because 4 of them will host here in that December 31st, January 1 window, and then it will emerge here into the semifinals, where here at the Capital and Orange Bowl, we're one of the semifinals. And lastly, you'll get to the national championship game. This year's in Atlanta. When we talk about this bracket a year from now, it'll be here in Miami.
All right, let's finish the bracket, because I know there's a lot of fans out there from these schools and these teams that want to see where they're going to be playing and, of course, who they're going to be playing. So let's go to number 6. Where are we at?
We got Alabama. They're next in line. They'll be number 6, hosting a game on their campus. We go to Tennessee. There's a theme here. It's the SEC so far.
Rocky Top there
Number
at the
7,
bottom.
and of course we get to number 8, and it is Ole Miss. So we'll stop there for a second, and we see all 4 home games are in SEC country.
Yeah.
So then we move here and we say, well, who's the next in line? It would be number 9. It would be Oregon, right? We go to number 10, and it would be here.
Some great games, by the way.
Oh, yeah. You go to number 11, you get to this.
Another SEC team.
And you look and you see Michigan there, and we got to go to Boise State because they're a conference champion and they need to get in this. So we would put them up here. And all of a sudden, like you just mentioned, some pretty blockbuster matchups, and the winners of the first round advance and play these 4 conference champions who got their bye, and it'll be exciting. So then it goes to the question, who hosts these games?
That's right. And by the way, sorry, Michigan, you got to be in that top 11 to at least secure yourself in there. All right, so let's talk about these games. Where does the Fiesta Bowl, Sugar Bowl, Peach Bowl, and Rose Bowl all factor in to the board?
So in this current agreement, there are still some contractual ties between conference champions and bowl games. So for this upcoming year, we look first and see Texas, and here's the 4 bowl games that are going to host quarterfinal games: the Fiesta Bowl, Sugar Bowl, Peach Bowl, and Rose Bowl. So we're going to start here and say, well, the Sugar Bowl had that historic relationship with the SEC. So Texas would be placed into the Sugar Bowl. We go to the next one, it would be Ohio State. Of course, the Big Ten's historic relationship with the Rose Bowl would dictate that. We go over here, and Miami's there. Geographically, the Peach Bowl would be the optimal place for them. And last but not least, and it makes sense, out west, and the Fiesta Bowl will be Utah. So there you go, and then we'd say, okay, what happens after that? Well, that's where it gets a little tricky. You've got the Capital One Orange Bowl, you've got the Goodyear Cotton Bowl, waiting to see who's coming into their game. I think that the selection committee who sets all this would look at Texas at number 1 and say, you know,
first dibs.
Dallas looks more in line with where they'd want to be, so they'd probably put them over here, and over here you would have the Capital One Orange Bowl. I'm guessing this is not, I'm not the selection committee,
Right.
but you can see the bracket take shape, and of course here we have Atlanta would be host of the national championship game.
So kind of a maybe unintended, but intended consequence of being number 1 is you get to pick where you're going, and obviously that could play a huge impact on the end of the year.
Yeah, it could be described that way, but really and truly, the selection committee is the ones that they're the ones making the decision. They would give deference, but they would look at the whole bracket because they're going to look at who their opponents are too, and if it creates an imbalance where a higher seed ends up playing in an inferior environment, whether it's the quarterfinal rounds or semifinal rounds, they're going to look at it holistically. So it's really in their court. It's not like the team picks where they go. It's in the selection committee's decision-making process.
Can I have some fun with you here and have you pick who's coming out of these games? Or you're not allowed to do that.
I'm gonna let you do that. Why don't you tell me what you think?
Okay, you know, just from what I've seen, I think I would move Georgia here. Oh, I like the Ole Miss Texas matchup. I'll say Alabama Miami, which we rarely get. And then Tennessee, Ohio State. I think you can see the theme. I'm going a lot of offense. A lot of offense here. By the way, you can have rematches here, right? There is no stipulation for teams playing each other a couple times a year now.
That's right. I mean, you could literally see a year with, say, the Big Ten has a blockbuster year. You have Michigan, Ohio State plays at the end of the year. They meet in their conference championship game, and it could somewhere end up in this bracket. So can you imagine a game like that playing 3 times in one season? That's what this new expanded playoff provides opportunities to see that happen.
The expanded playoff is obviously very cool. It's going to provide a lot of new opportunities for teams to obviously win the national championship. But for the Capital One Orange Bowl, for the community down here, how is this impacting this game?
It's incredibly exciting. We were obviously part of the BCS, moving into the college football playoff, and every 3 years we would have a national semifinal. But now you have a game of relevance towards the national championship game at least once. Down here in 2026, we'll have it twice. Economic development. By virtue of the success of the bowl game, we're able to do more and more into the community. It's going to redefine it. It's going to be a 4-round playoff with 11 teams as opposed to a 2-round playoff with 3 teams. So we're very fortunate to be part of this system. At the same token, we're very proud of 91 years of history, and we just want to continue that because truly, when you go around the country and our members wear the orange jacket, when they see it, they know they're talking about Miami, South Florida, and it promotes a mission statement that's never changed about doing good for South Florida.
I'm gonna do one good one for the fans down here in South. Since we are in South Florida, and since I predicted some of this, let's just go ahead and let them. I think that'd actually be the road team in this instance, maybe, right? Based on because they'd be the lower seed.
That's
but
right.
I'm doing that. No one here at the Orange Bowl committee is doing that. That is me. So before anyone gets in trouble, but Eric Poms, thank you so much for kind of explaining this. Once again, the Orange Bowl, January 9th. Here in South Florida, Capital One Orange Bowl. It is a national semifinal game here for the first ever 12-team format of the college football playoff. It's going to be really exciting. Can't wait to see how all this shakes out. And I'm sure some people will be mad at me about this board, the things I did. But don't be mad at Eric. He's just here to bring you all the information. Thank you so much, sir, for doing this. And this was a lot of fun.
It was great, and it's exciting. And just again, this is for this year's playoff. In 2026, we'll be here in the quarterfinals, and that game right here will turn to a 6, and will be Miami and South Florida hosting college football's premier event.
There you go. Can't wait to do another episode of the Orange Bowl Huddle for that one. But that wraps up this first edition of the Orange Bowl Huddle this year. Join us next time.